He is so dishonest, Newt. I mean, this guy, he's just brushing by the actual history between those two and what they've said publicly because he realizes people are living their lives and not parsing through their previous statements today.
Well, look, I think part of what makes this all so difficult is that the scale of both Biden corruption and Department of Justice corruption is so enormous that we keep trying to take it back to the norm. We keep trying to say, gee, it can't really be this sick, but it is. And you just have to start with that assumption. These are dishonest people who believe that the rest of us are so stupid that if they just play as though they're being honest, that we'll go along with it, or we'll be powerless because they have the presidency, the Justice Department, the FBI. They can rig the game. And this is just the most recent example, although it is done so stupidly that you have to wonder what's going on. First of all, technically, Weiss can't be a special counsel because the special counsel in law has to be somebody coming from outside of the Justice Department. Second, to take a guy who has almost been, a comedy act. I mean, you mentioned earlier, he allowed the time to expire when they could try the biggest of the tax problems. If that was done in the private sector, he would have been sued for malpractice. I mean, it's one of the most basic, obvious things. This is a guy whose plea deal was so bad that it collapsed in court in public. And this is a guy who's managed to avoid prosecuting Hunter Biden, despite the fact that the FBI's had the laptop since 2019, and that, in fact, people know there are a whole range of good reasons for prosecuting him. And that's the guy that Merrick Garland picks to become the special counsel. The whole thing is such an act of utter contempt for all the rest of us that it's I think, kind of astonishing.
So why does he do it now? Is it to retain control? Is it to shut down Weiss testifying in front of the House? Like, what do you think led Merrick Garland to do this on Friday?
Well, I'm not totally sure. I think part of it is that Weiss is beginning to realize that he's going to have to actually try Hunter Biden, that they're not going to get to a plea deal, not one that Biden will accept, and not one that he can offer. So from that standpoint, he's in a different position. I also think that they're going to try to use this to shield Weiss from testifying, but that doesn't necessarily work. If this becomes, and this is where I think Speaker Kevin McCarthy is exactly right, if this becomes a matter of impeachment inquiry, they can bring him in, even though he's currently on the case, and they can compel him to testify. He can plead the fifth, but that's pretty weird to have a Justice Department lawyer pleading the fifth. But I think that as the Republicans dig deeper and become more determined, and as the country begins to realize how sick the whole thing is, it's going to make it more difficult for Weiss to avoid coming in, and frankly, for Merrick Garland to avoid coming in. Remember, in Watergate, the only cabinet officer ever to go to jail was the Attorney General, John Mitchell, and he went to jail for obstruction of justice. I suspect if we get access, which we will eventually, to all the various emails between Merrick Garland and Weiss in the White House, we're going to find out that Merrick Garland is blatantly seeking to obstruct justice and is vulnerable following the John Mitchell and becoming the second U.S. Attorney General to end up in jail for obstruction.
I mean, we've heard some rattlings about that from Ted Cruz and others about whether Merrick Garland lied under oath about the authority that had been granted to David Weiss, and that this is just this is what really is a falling on the sword. It's sort of an admission, if you read it, that the critics have been right all along. He did not empower David Weiss. Both of them have been misleading us about it. And just as David Weiss was going to have to go and do the full-throated under oath testimony about whether he went to the U.S. attorneys, which we know he did, in California and DC and ask them to prosecute charges only to get stiff-armed and then not be able to bring those charges, and then the statute of limitations expired. Right as he was going to have to do all that, he gets this new title, which the two of them have been telling us all along is unnecessary. He's got more power than a special counsel. And people like Jonathan Turley, smart lawyers who I respect, say that he actually does not have to go in front of Congress now. And you're pointing out, even if he does go, he's got escape clauses that, may or may not prove fruitful for him. But all of this, it tells me what? It tells me that he's in Merrick Garland's pocket. The whistleblower said that. The whistleblower said David Weiss had no real interest in investigating Hunter Biden, thwarted the investigation every turn, told Hunter Biden's lawyers when they were about to raid his storage closet, go interview him and other witnesses, kept giving him the heads up so that they couldn't get any real evidence, let the statute of limitations expire, misled us in his testimony that he gave to Congress, and we could go down the list. And then he tried to strike this sweetheart deal in this Delaware federal court, which the judge caught him. She caught him at. And that's when the plea deal fell apart. And now what we get, Mr. Speaker, is an announcement that, yes, the parties are in an impasse on a negotiation to stave off the remaining charges against Hunter, tax and BS charges. I mean, the ones that they seem to be pursuing, not the real meat, most of which have expired. But they're going to pull the case away from that hero Delaware federal court judge, and they want to refile now in DC or California, where, again, they already tried, according to the whistleblowers, and were rebuffed by the sitting U.S. attorneys there. And David Weiss did nothing about it. He did nothing about it. So, the main goal here is let's get the hell away from the Delaware federal district court judge who was on to us.
Well, I think that they are frankly just trying to run the clock out. They would like to never get to trial before the next election. And simply wait everything out. And if you'll notice, part of what this does is for those people who are not deeply committed left-wing Democrats, it just makes really clear the double standard of the persecution of Donald Trump when the protection of the Bidens. And frankly, the protection of Hillary Clinton. The double standard is now so blatantly obvious that historians will someday write about it, I think, with a sense of awe that they really thought the American people were so stupid that they could have this kind of open hypocrisy and not pay for it. And I think, in fact, what you're seeing is more and more people, and Jonathan Turley is certainly an example, Andy McCarthy is another example, very senior lawyers, Alan Dershowitz, who are saying flatly, this stuff is all rigged, it's all phony, much of it is beyond the law and should be illegal. And that you're dealing with people in charge of the law who are, in fact, outside the law.
Yeah, who are themselves behaving corruptly. Not for nothing, but on the point I just made about how the whistleblower said David Weiss and his team were thwarting them, these tax investigators, really smart guys, at every turn on their investigation of Hunter. We will not be looking into Joe Biden, they were told. We will not be discussing, quote, the big guy. You will not be asking questions about any of the Biden grandchildren, including the adult grandchildren who had bank accounts they believed were receiving improper payments and whose finances were involved in this whole scheme. And trying to protect Hunter, as I said, with respect to the search of his storage closet, with respect to the witness interviews that the FBI was going to do. And just this morning, House Oversight released a transcript of an FBI supervisory agent who backed up those two IRS whistleblowers. The IRS whistleblower, they were on our show. The FBI supervisory agent, so, a different investigator, backed them up entirely. And one of the highlights from this agent reads as follows. The agent said, quote, I was informed that FBI headquarters had contacted Secret Service headquarters and had made a notification that we sought to interview Hunter. Before they went there, they did not wish for him to have a heads up. They did not wish for the Secret Service to know. And sure enough, them notifying the Secret Service alerted Hunter and shut down the interview. They did not get their interview. And then the question was put to this FBI agent, in your career of 20 years, have you ever been told that you had to wait outside of a target's home until they contacted you? Agent, not that I recall. Look at the mirror. Do you see those dark spots? You don't have to live like this, but they're not going to go away on their own. Introducing the Dark Spot Corrector from Genucel. Perfect for summer. The dark spot corrector, with not one but 3 cutting-edge ingredients, goes to work fast to target sunspots, dark spots, liver spots, and even old discoloration, both on your face and hands. Enjoy your summer sun, beach, and barbecues without those embarrassing, pesky spots. With Genucel, you will see the results or you will get your money back. No questions asked. Go to Genucel.com right now. Get your dark spot corrector with the new Genucel Most Popular Package and say goodbye to those pesky spots tomorrow. And if you're not blown away with the results, get 100% of your money back. No questions asked. Visit Genucel.com/MK60 right now for these amazing summer essentials and save over 70% off Genucel's Most Popular Package. Don't wait. Order Genucel's Most Popular Package right now. Free shipping, free returns, and the best luxury skincare you've ever used. All at 70% off at Genucel.com/MK60. GENUCEL.com/MK60. All orders include a mystery luxury gift while supplies last. Genucel.com/MK60. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.